So this topic that I'm about to talk to you about has taken me a bit more time. I've also been busy with other commitments as well as this taking up time in terms of research. It's required quite a bit of research on my part. Now the figures that I'm going to give you are based mostly on a study that I was able to find that looked at 4 different types of milk. It looked at cow's milk, it looked at almond milk, soy milk and rice milk. I do have different milks in front of me and I will get to those later on. I do want to talk about some of the most sustainable and least sustainable milks that are out there. But cow's milk is probably one of the most unsustainable milks that you can get. So for instance, in 1 cup of coffee, if you don't use milk, it produces about 21 grams of CO2 equivalent. With a plant-based milk, this goes up to approximately 26.5 grams of CO2 equivalent, and then with cow's milk that almost doubles to about 53 grams of CO2 equivalent. So that's quite a big jump already, just from a plant-based milk to a cow's milk. So greenhouse gases are also a major thing that we have to consider. Cows produce methane, which is about 20 times more potent than CO2. And per litre of cow's milk produces about 3 kilograms of CO2. With rice milk, which is the second highest, this is 1.2 kilograms of CO2, which that's practically half. And almond milk, which is the lowest, produces about 0.7 kilograms of CO2. That's quite a large difference, really. And then as well, to get 1 calorie of milk protein requires 14 calories of fossil fuels, whereas 1 calorie of soy protein requires 0.26 calories of fossil fuel. That's a massive difference. So the next bit is land use. So cows require quite a lot of space, so you've got to give them space to graze, they need water, and then they also need food, which then requires more space to feed them. And to get 1 litre of cow's milk, you have to put in at least twice as much into the cow than what is required to get at least 1 litre of a plant-based milk. So it's a lot more space efficient just to use a plant-based milk already. So there are approximately 270 million cows globally providing us with milk, requiring space to house, feed and graze them, but also grow and produce food that they need. One of the other issues that you have is one of the crops that we do tend to feed them, and we tend to put it in like a processed type lab block. I think they're called nuggets or biscuits, I can't remember. Soy tends to be put in that. Now 85% of all soy produced goes towards feeding livestock. So that's only about 15% of that is actually used to feed us. One of the issues with soy is it's not really produced on a sustainable scale. It's grown in South America and it's grown where patches of the Amazon rainforest used to be. And the more soy that we try to grow to feed our livestock, the more of the Amazon rainforest that we start to lose. So it's really important to really consider about where your milk is coming from, what has gone into it, and looking at, is it responsible for deforestation? Is it being produced sustainably? You look at a grass-fed cow, but then you've also got to consider, is that grass-fed cow also being fed a lab-based block that maybe has soy in it as well? A lot of cows usually are fed that. There are some instances where you might get an organically raised cow that may not be fed anything other than the grains and grass that are in its field, which is fantastic, but it's really hard to try and find that out. But if you can, that is great, please do. And then the other issue you have with soy is it is coming from South America and it's being transported all the way across the UK and other parts of Europe. That is producing a lot of greenhouse gases as well. That's a vast amount of ocean that's got to get across to get here. So 1 litre of cow's milk requires 9 square metres, with the second highest land use being 0.8 square metres for oat milk, and the lowest is 0.5 square metres for almond milk. So already you've got quite a large jump. You're going from 0.8 square metres to 9 square metres. So by having oat milk instead of cow's milk, you're decreasing the amount of land use that is required to get your milk tenfold. So water, another issue. Cows do generally require a lot more water. Again, not just to give the cows, but then also to give their crops. Remember, everything that you have to put in the cow, you also have to then put it into the crops that you are feeding the cow. So that does increase how much the cow is using. You might look at a farm and be like, oh yeah, well on this farm they're using this much water, this much land and whatever. But then you've also got to consider how much of that, how much extra is being going into the food to feed them. So 1 litre of cow's milk requires 628 litres of water. Almond milk is the next highest, requiring 371 litres of water. So again, that's roughly about half the amount of water required. And the lowest is soy milk, needing 28 litres of water. That's a massive difference. Of course, there are controversies in this as well. So, for instance, cows in the UK, for instance, are mostly fed rainwater, especially in our wetter months. And I believe the Highlands tend to be a bit wetter in Scotland than they are around the rest of the UK. So they probably are fed purely just on rainwater. And because of that, they are much lower water intensive than, say, what almonds are to grow. So that is also another thing to consider. So the values that I have been using are global averages, and they are subjective to the area and what the cows are fed. So certain cows fed on certain types of diet have been shown to produce a lot less methane and other greenhouse gases than cows that are fed processed food and the lab-based blocks made from soya and other things. Again, as I mentioned, cows that are raised in wetter countries will need far less water. Organically raised cows also don't require things like antibiotics, major cause of antibiotic resistance. Organic cows don't have antibiotics used, they're not fed, they're not given steroids, they're not given other things to kind of try and boost their production, which all add up. So they all produce, all these factors produce carbon emissions. They all end up leaving chemicals in our environment as well, and these are all things that we have to consider when choosing what we drink. Whereas, for instance, almond milk is a very thirsty plant. It's grown largely in California, which is a very dry part of America, so it's quite water intensive, and because of this, wells are having to be built specifically for the almonds, and the ground is seen to actually start sinking now because there is so much water depletion of that area, which you won't get in areas where cows are fed mostly on rainwater. As well, grazing animals are used as a form of conservation control method. So for heathlands and moorlands, grazing animals are used. It helps to aerate the soil, it helps to release dormant seeds, and also to keep down certain plants such as sprouting trees and stuff that you don't want growing in that area, just to help keep that a proper moorland for the wildlife and unique ecosystem in that area. So again, grazing animals are also useful in those senses. Conservationists do use them as well to help maintain and manage certain types of habitats. So soy, as discussed, soy is responsible for a large amount of deforestation of the Amazon rainforest. However, if more people switch to a soy-based milk instead of cow's milk, we can reduce how much soy is actually being used, and we can help to reduce so much deforestation. Soy definitely isn't my milk of choice because there are definitely more sustainable ones, but again, it is still a bit more sustainable than milk in itself. However, the company Alpro does now grow soya in Europe using sustainable farming methods. That also cuts greenhouse emissions, so if they're transporting that to the rest of Europe and to the UK, then it's not got as far to travel. So almond milk. So as I said, almond milk is a very thirsty plant, it's grown in dry country, it's very water intensive. And again, you've got the issues of it being transported from California over to the UK and the rest of Europe. Almonds also require heavy pesticide use, which has been shown to get into the waterways and drinking water and stuff like that. So it is polluting drinking water. It is having negative effects on the ecosystem in that area as well. You've also got issues such as with heavy pesticides, it affects pollinators and other arthropods. This then goes up the food chain. It gets as birds will also land on the crops as well, and they'll get pesticides on their legs and their bodies, and when they preen themselves, they will then end up ingesting some of the pesticides as well as eating the insects that have been landing on the almonds and maybe trying to pollinate them. Then that also travels further up the food chain into large animals that eat those birds. You've got kind of a never-ending cycle. So pesticide use is a very big issue. So 23,000 acres of natural land have been converted to grow almonds. That's quite a lot. We're in a world now where we actually need to be preserving as much natural land as we can. That is quite a lot of land use. That is quite a lot of natural land that's no longer there now. So hazelnuts. So yes, before I jump onto my sustainable ones, actually I do want to mention coconut milk. As more and more people are switching to plant alternatives, coconut milk and coconut products tend to be the go-to. It's now proving to be as unsustainable as palm oil. The sad thing is about it, you don't have organisations and charities working to make it more sustainable yet, because it's relatively new that it's becoming more and more unsustainable. So like with palm oil, the controversies and unsustainability of it has been around for a very long time, and that's where you've seen the rise of organisations such as the RSPBO and Chester Zoo also putting money in to help save natural land and make it more sustainable. That is now happening with coconuts. We are seeing a large increase, and it's not being produced on a sustainable scale, especially as it's now having to be produced on a more industrious level. So coconuts are another one that I would avoid. Also, you do have the issues of they are grown in more tropical countries, so you do have the greenhouse emissions again for them to be transported over here. There may be brands that are making it sustainable, and I've not got round to actually checking out which brands are producing and selling sustainable coconut milk, but if you want to, do check it out. Have a look, just have a bit of a Google. There are a lot of brands out there selling coconut milk. Some of them will be sustainable, some of them won't be. It is worth finding out. So, onto my three kind of most sustainable brands that I have found. Doing a quick search, the three that I have in front of me, so Hazelnut Milk, my oat milk and my hemp milk, are the most sustainable types of milk that you will find. So hazelnuts, one of my favourites. It tastes absolutely amazing, especially in porridge. Definitely, I get it as a treat for me. So if you're UK and Europe based, hazelnut trees do grow naturally around the UK. You can go on a walk anywhere into natural land and you'll find hazelnut trees. Also, because hazelnuts do grow on trees, they are fantastic for carbon storage. They don't rely on pollinating insects either, such as honeybees, which honeybees are an invasive species to the UK. We brought them over for the purpose of producing honey here. They grow in moist climates, so as I said, the UK is a very wet country, so they don't rely on water. They're not water intensive as much. They just rely on rainfall. Again, if they're growing naturally here, then that is quite literally what they're relying on, is the rainfall that we get. However, some of the issues that you might find, is trees are very slow growing. They will produce hazelnuts maybe once a year. So to grow them on an industrious level might be a bit difficult. It may require us to convert a lot of land into plantations or farms specifically for hazelnuts, which means that we'll be getting rid of a lot of our biodiversity. A habitat or an ecosystem needs a range of plant species, not just one, and it might be detrimental. However, if we're selling agricultural land, converting it to grow hazelnuts, then that is actually more sustainable. We are providing a natural based plant, and so long as we're not prejudiced towards, when I say this I mean we're not persecutive towards the species that may want to visit and feast on the hazelnuts, it could be very good for wildlife as well. But that depends on our attitudes. Farmers and agricultural land generally isn't very good about sharing the crops with animals that might want to feast on them because that is their profits. They are still great for reducing carbon emissions though in the atmosphere, and are definitely a very good winner for a milk alternative. So next one, hemp. Hemp is a bit of a miracle plant. I absolutely love hemp. The entire plant can be used, so you've got the seeds which are used for milk and put into other foods. The stems and the roots can be used to make rope, clothing, hempcrete, which is a type of building material. You can also use it to make plastics which do decompose rather than biodegrade. There is a difference between biodegradable and compostable, and I will cover that in another video. So yeah, hemp is a bit of a miracle plant. It's also really good for your health, full of omegas 3, 6 and 9, so essential fatty acids that we do absolutely need in our diet. They are fast growing and produce high yields. They do return nitrogen to the soil, so you can grow it on relatively nutrient poor soil and it will give back to that soil, making it fertile. So if you want to grow something else there which you previously couldn't, you then can afterwards. Hemp does take in 4 times more CO2 than what trees would. However, once the hemp is then harvested, and depending on what process you use to turn it into whatever you want, so whether that's milk, clothing or whatever else, it may actually end up releasing that CO2 back to the atmosphere. So the processes involved may make it more carbon neutral than carbon negative, which is, I think it does actually say it on the bottle some here. Yeah, so this is stating that that is implying that it's carbon negative, but it actually might be more carbon neutral than carbon negative, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because carbon neutral is better than carbon positive. So these are all things that we need to look at. Hemp doesn't require pesticides. It is its own natural pesticide, which is fantastic. That means you get rid of your pesticide use. That makes it pretty much organic, which is fantastic for the environment. Pesticides are a major issue to a lot of species, and as discussed, they do get into waterways, they do destroy the ecosystem. At the moment it is grown in small quantities though. How it will do on an industrious level is difficult to determine. It may do well, it may not. Also, to harvest hemp you need an official governing body or a policeman has to be present. You also need licences, which may not be as widely available. So you may find that if everybody started to switch to hemp milk, it might not become as easily accessible as it is currently, because not a lot of people do actually drink hemp milk at the moment. It's definitely a sustainable alternative, but because it is closely related to the THC high cannabis sativa plant, it needs to be made, somebody needs to make sure that the THC high cannabis sativa isn't being grown instead of the THC low hemp plant. so that might make availability more scarce if people all start switching to it. But it's definitely a good alternative. Definitely got a lot of good benefits for the environment and the planet. So it is definitely a good milk, and it does taste quite good as well. So my ultimate sustainable milk is oat milk. I have two here. This is because the brand Oatly is considered to be the most sustainable oat brand. It's grown organically, so that's no pesticides. There's no pesticides in it. It does also mean to maintain its organic brand, it can't fortify it with anything like, a lot of milks are fortified with B12. This one isn't. It's also grown in Sweden, so it's not grown too far away. It's then transported to Germany to be packaged. They do have a statement on their website saying why they package it in Germany instead of Sweden. It's to do with their packaging companies meeting their high demands that they have for their milk, and to avoid contamination of other milks and other things. So oat milk is quite sustainable because it can be grown quite literally anywhere. It can be grown on nutrient poor soil. We already grow it at a relatively industrious level, so we already produce it quite widely. So if we were all to start switching to oat milk, it wouldn't be much of a problem. The yields and how well we produce it means that it won't struggle if we all start switching to oat milk. As well, if we switched from cow's milk to oat milk, that frees up a lot of land that we can start growing oats on as well anyway, and potentially start giving some land back to as natural land or for development, rather than destroying more natural land to raise and grow livestock, or to put new builds on. So yeah, oat milk in general, very good. Oatly is better. Morrison's oat milk maybe does use pesticides. I don't actually know if it does use pesticides. It might just be if it's fortified with stuff. I'll just check. Yeah, so this is actually fortified with vitamin B12 and stuff, so it can't have the organic label. I don't actually know if they do use pesticides. I do need to check that out. The last thing I want to discuss about milks though, and their sustainability, is packaging. So I do have a glass bottle here. You can make oat milk yourself. It's very easy. It doesn't take a long time either. It's very quick. I have recently just finished this, which is why it's empty. If you make it yourself and put it in your own reusable bottle, that makes it far more sustainable than any others because of the packaging. So all plant-based milks come in Tetra Paks. Tetra Paks are made of plastic, foil and card. Because you've got these three materials, it makes them harder to separate and harder to recycle, compared with the plastic bottle, which is far more readily recyclable. However, despite the fact that plastic is more recyclable, doesn't necessarily mean that it is any more likely to be recycled. Do remember that about 9% of everything you put in your recycling bin does actually get recycled. There are councils and companies that do deal with Tetra Pak specifically. So my local council, the East Riding of Yorkshire, does specifically recycle Tetra Paks. So that actually makes, for me, Tetra Paks more sustainable than a plastic bottle. You also have companies such as TerraCycle that do work to recycle harder to recycle materials, and that includes Tetra Paks. So I would check out TerraCycle. They're a very good site. They have lots of drop-off points for lots of different hard to recycle materials that you maybe can't put in your recycling bin. The other thing you have about cow's milk is if you get it from the milkman, it comes in a glass bottle. Once you finish with that glass bottle, you put it out, the milkman collects it, they go away, they wash the bottle out and reuse it, which is actually more sustainable and energy efficient than recycling the glass itself. So a lot of companies and a lot of producers focus on recycling materials rather than cleaning them and reusing them. I can understand why in some instances they have to recycle, depending on if the materials arrive to them damaged, but obviously that then makes cow's milk from the milkman more sustainable in terms of packaging than, say, oat milk in a Tetra Pak. So my main message here is I've given you some facts, I've told you about packaging as well, I've made you aware that actually cow's milk from the UK is more sustainable than almond milk in a lot of regards, partly based on the water intensity and pesticide use, and the fact that cows reared and what they're fed can make a big difference to sustainability. For me, oat milk is a clear winner. If you choose to stick with cow's milk because it's organic, you get it from the milkman, or because plastic is more readily recyclable, then that probably is the right decision for you in terms of sustainability. There is no clear-cut answer in this. As much as making your own oat milk may be the most sustainable solution, it is not always practical for everybody. And plant-based milks do tend to get a little bit more expensive as well, so it's also not necessarily as affordable. I would like to at some point get some time to start making my oat milk and hopefully start selling it a bit, kind of like the milkman. But that might be quite a while away yet before I can start doing that. It would be quite nice if I can. If somebody else takes that up, that is great. I am all for that because it is about sustainability. I don't want to do it to make money. I want to do it because it's sustainable. And not enough people do that yet with plant-based milks. So if you've seen this and you're like, that's a great idea, go for it. I am completely okay with you stealing my idea because it's about sustainability and it's all making a difference. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned something, and I hope now when going forward and choosing what milk you drink, you are making conscious decisions as to the sustainability of the milk that you're choosing and genuinely thinking about the impacts that it has. So thanks for watching. And